an organization begin to adopt in an introduction, let's call it the OKR introduction, without fully boiling the ocean. And I want to hear from the group, because I think we might have some perspectives of how might you suggest to an organization, based on your experiences, what's a practical, easy introduction to the adoption of OKRs? Because it can be almost feeling like a complete overhaul and re-engineering of how an organization has approached strategy in the past. And it often feels very heavy. And it can often feel like what is being produced in the articulation of objectives and key results feels not really strategic, and people get disengaged, and what they're stating is the operational obvious. Here's a few things that we've done, and I'll kick off this conversation. Is, organizations do have a structure, a process, a flow that they've been using for years, if not decades, in setting a strategy, a big, bold vision, doing road mapping, cascading that to an annual action plan, with goals, initiatives, key performance indicators, and what are we going to do in the next 12 months to move the needle to get us closer to attaining this big, bold vision that we've stated for ourselves. And often I hear, leadership saying, wow, we need to do this pivotal shift, and we need to adopt OKRs because leadership read the book and we're all in and we got to do this. And it feels really heavy to undo things that have worked in the past, to replace and improve upon a few areas of gaps. What we've found, and this is a good approach, is highlight just a few of the current strategic objectives for the year, a slice of the plan, a area of opportunity, or a few areas of critical opportunity, and then cascade the OKR approach from those strategic swim lanes without overhauling the entire organizational strategic plan. So that would be, cascading and aligning the leadership team on collective ownership on a critical few organizational wide objectives, cascading those to team or departmental level objectives, and then getting into that quarterly cadence of key results. It's a good way to model what better might look like. You can develop advocates and champions of the process, learn about what worked well and what needs improvement going forward. And once you dial that in, then start to begin to migrate and adopt broader within the organization. What else? What else have folks on this team experienced, or thoughts and perspectives on kind of like a lightweight introduction to OKRs without diving fully in and re-engineering everything?
So I'll jump in there. I think it's
a
similar answer. Whatever you choose, keep it simple. But I think the cool part about it is it takes the bigger picture, longer term stuff and boils it down to some simple things so people can be aligned within the organization. I think that's a huge gap in organizations that really don't have experience with planning and really the complexity of a growing organization. It creates time management problems, it creates stress, all those types of things, if you don't have a simple system for saying, here's what's really important this year.
Yeah, keep it simple. And there's a lot of things we like about OKRs add-on strategy. One of the things that we like the most is this rigor and focus and discipline and alignment within the organization around this quarterly cadence of, it's not just capturing and sharing performance on a monthly basis, and then on a quarterly basis, we're just like looking in the rearview mirror of like, oh, how was the performance in the last 90 days? it's really focusing that those quarterly performance reviews are partially looking in the rearview mirror of, okay, what did we get done, achieved, great, check, but more importantly, what are the upcoming priorities, that calibration of where we're going to gain alignment, focus of our time, energy, resources for the next 90 days. That whole concept of OKRs really brought attention to how impactful and agile the implementation of strategy could be, adopting that kind of like quarterly cycle mentality. And what's beautiful is organizations can adopt that attitude, that perception, that approach without using O's and KRs. There's always going to be initiatives, short-term actions, priority areas of focus that need our immediate attention, and we can begin to adopt like the spirit of OKRs by starting with what can we do better and differently during our quarterly reviews. Quarterly reviews are a fantastic time to let's recalibrate, let's align, because strategy and implementation is a hypothesis. Let's confirm, is our hypothesis still the right set of things that we need to focus and tackle in the next 90 days? Use that quarterly review to have that discussion. And it's okay to recalibrate strategy in the implementation of it on a quarterly frequency. Thoughts? Yeah. Kathy, what do you think?
Sorry, I was putting all of mine in the chat.
Oh, okay. I wasn't even looking
can't keep
at
up
chat.
with that mirror board. Now the way I like to do it, a lot of times too, people, sitting at the table have a title and they're not sure exactly how they fit into that mission, that vision, or purpose. And I've seen a lot of that in healthcare where, especially like finance people, they're like, I have nothing to do with patient, direct patient care or patient satisfaction or what have you, when right now those are some of the biggest OKRs in healthcare, because our pay is determined by that. So I tell them a story and I put them as their title into that role and show them how they connect, and then how that objective connects to that. And then when I'm doing the KRs, I'm saying these are your tools to reach that objective. So now it's a helper to them. It's not so much of a something else I got to do or something outside of my area, but it also creates that collaboration between their different departments and people. They have to start bringing them in and figuring out, how are we going to do this? Not how am I going to do this, but how are we? And does this cross over into other functional areas? And how are we going to go about collaborating with these other groups? So it does a lot for communication, for helping people to understand other people's roles and how they are connected. And it really does support a mission and a vision for a company, along with your retention, your buy-in from leadership from lower levels as well.
There is absolute impact and efficacy to the spirit of OKRs, and it can help us challenge ourselves to become better in organizational strategy, how it's structured, how we set expectations, and accountability and ownership throughout the organization, in uniquely contributing to moving the needle to get us closer to our vision. One other approach to begin the adoption of OKRs is pilot it with a dedicated team. There's usually a team whose culture or sense of they want to innovate, they want to try something different, they don't want to stick with what we've always done in the past. Find that team that reflects that kind of like early adopter kind of mentality, pilot an OKR methodology within a pilot team. Learn from it, share from it, grow within it, dial it in when it's ready. Use that to kind of champion, broader, deployment of the spirit of OKRs within an organization. Because I've seen, I was working with a group over at FedEx, and FedEx has a massive strategy group dedicated to rolling strategy, defining strategy, rolling strategy throughout all of FedEx. And they wanted to really begin to adopt OKRs. And they said, you know what, we're going to pilot it with a very specific team. We're going to model it. We're going to make it our own. We're not going to follow every rule of the book. We're going to kind of make some new, alterations, and they're having success, with like just piloting it within a team. So that is a great approach. And I think I saw something in chat around, is tying an OKR methodology and the outcomes of our objectives and key results. Should we tie that to compensation and bonus programs? And my answer to that, if we are introducing the spirit of OKRs, I would defer and not tie it to compensation. It totally, and because tying it to compensation can work wonderfully and it can fail miserably, because it does influence the O's and KRs that are produced if it's tied to compensation. Not that it can't work very well, but it needs to be thoughtfully done, that we're not influencing our strategy based by personal win and financial gain. So definitely not a introduction of the adoption of OKRs is to consider tying that to a comp or bonus program. Yeah. Okay. So let's think about a couple key takeaways from this. Is, focus on a critical few. Keep it simple. Start with a pilot team. Yeah. Or start with a pilot team, or start it simply with the leadership team. Get the leadership team dialed in to the concept of O's and KRs, because before that rolls out to divisions and departments and teams and individuals, there needs to be an internal champion or champions that say, this is better than what we've done in the past, and here's why, and here's what we've learned from it, and here's what we've gotten out of it. And here was our personal win as a leadership team, and here is what might be your personal win. So start with a dedicated team or a leadership team. Pilot it, I think, is a key takeaway. I've spoken with so many organizations that were either 6 months, 12 months, 18 months into a full-blown organizational deployment of OKRs, and the staff and teams are like revolting. They're like, this is the worst thing we've ever been asked to do, and now we're just fudging things and coming up with stuff just to go through the motions of objectives and key results. And even leadership is looking at it going, wow, it looks like we're really busy doing a lot of stuff, but we have no clue if we're moving the needle on anything. Very cool. All right. So we tackle,
Jeff, before we dive into that last question, I know we're getting limited on time. Jim had a great question here, probably just defining it a little bit here. How many per team, per person, per organization, just to understand what that might look like of a light version, or focusing on the critical few, start with the pilot team or leadership team?
Oh, I would say just like kind of like simple rule of thumb when we're talking about piloting O's and KRs, 2 to 3 O's supported by 2 to 3 KRs. Keep it simple. And that helps ensure that the O's and KRs truly are strategic, and we're not just coming up with KRs that are just stating the operational obvious. So 2 to 3. 2 to 3 O's supported by 2 to 3 KRs. I always think going lighter is better. I've never worked with an organization that completed the strategic planning process and has a full organizational strategic plan. Not once have I ever heard an organization say, wow, I wish we would have built it bigger. What they always say is, I wish we would have built it smaller. What did we do?